Welcome to the Reimagine podcast. Each week, give yourself 30 minutes and meet the people working hard to create the future of insurance today.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of the Reimagine podcast. And I'm really excited about today's show, Laura, because we have a real, local success story here to share today.
Yeah, we sure do. It's great to be back, and we're excited to have part of the Reimagine family, as I like to say, on with us today. We have Mark Stender, CEO at Intellagents, and we've known Mark for a few years now. But for our listeners, Mark, welcome. It's great to have you, and please tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks. So first, thanks, Laura and Paul, for having me on, and it's fantastic to be a part of the NASA Reimagine community. For the folks on the podcast, my name is Mark Stender. I've been in the insurance industry for 35 plus years, a wide variety of roles at Fortune 50 insurers, chief digital officer, head of technology strategy, et cetera. So I've had the kind of a front row seat at the evolution of insurance technology for quite some time.
Cool. And you have some breaking news. Yeah, very cool. Let's sort of tease out. We're going to talk about your success, but tell what happened. Why were you in the news?
Yeah. So thanks, Paul. So we are recently acquired by Fatbrain AI, which is a publicly traded entity who is best-in-class risk-based algorithms, and they're very excited to be to take that technology into the insurance space for the first time, and elected to do that through Intellagents, right? So Intellagents is all about connecting the ecosystems and the partners. Think of it as the glass bottom boat for insurance. And now with Fatbrain, we have the world's greatest telescope to look into that glass bottom boat, so to speak. So we're looking forward to the connection between these two products.
How do we make that an electric glass bottom boat? I've seen a lot of those in Newport Beach. So I think that would be great. Yeah. Okay, it's a huge success story. I mean, you just kind of say, "Oh yeah, by the way, we got what?" Okay, Mark, let's rewind the clock. Now, I remember maybe 4 years ago, right, talking to you at a couple of like Stacey Brown's events, and I think this was like a PowerPoint presentation. Right? How and when did this company come to life?
Yeah, so early 2019, we got the idea, coming off of completing a digital transformation for a Fortune 50, and then starting to explore the insurtech ITC dig-in space. It became very clear that there's 1,000 new logos out there that folks are going to need to get familiar with, and their success will be dependent upon how well they connect to the 65 years worth of existing systems and processes that drive the day-to-day operation of the insurers. So the connectivity of that really was the genesis of Intellagents, and making that connectivity easier, right, to both discover who all these great new solutions are, and then rapidly be able to contract and do proof of concepts and go into connectivity with their existing systems. So we look at ourselves as the insurtech to expedite the adoption of insurtechs.
Nice. Now, Mark, you mentioned over 1,000 new logos at that time. How do you market yourself in a sea full of brand new logos in a glass bottom boat? How do you make sure that you're not hitting rocks and making sure that people know that when you flag you fly your flag, people know that it's Mark?
Swimming around there, we're keeping the jet skis away.
I think that the time is now, right? So I think the last several years of insurtech have been about discovery of the insurtechs, have been about the maturity of those, right? And now it's about the connectivity of them, right? How to use them in a sentence to solve real business problems, right? And that has led to all of the rapid, conversations around ecosystems, right? I mean, that is the core theme of ITC, right? And I think it's just the fact that we're on the right point in time, right? First, they have to mature, and then they have to connect. And companies like ours who can expedite that without in a no code kind of drag and drop manner, without having to put a lot of fingers on keyboards, is very helpful to all sides.
So I remember when you came over to our building to say, "Hey, listen, we want to be part of this program." What made you want to be part of our program back
Yeah.
in 2019?
Well, spent many years in the company's downtown Hartford, so have a lot of loyalty to downtown Hartford. I grew up in Connecticut and went to school to Connecticut, so was very excited about the Hartford community, which was always the insurance capital world, really making a stance and being part of the insurtech capital of the world. So we wanted to make sure we were part of that.
And while downtown, talk to us a little bit about what were some of the assets you were able to utilize, run into. Paul had mentioned Stacey Brown's events earlier. We like to think that we have a lot cooking downtown. For those who haven't been to Hartford, tell us a little bit about what are some of the things that you found along the way that were helpful to you.
Yeah, well, first of all, on the insurtech side, right, there's the incubation, right, of several companies have come out of that, all of which are members of the the intelligence platform at this point. So that helped us in that regard, and then the connectivity with the local set of carriers, right,
Well,
at the end of the day. So
yeah, well, tell us, because I think you kind of went quick, and I bet a lot of people don't understand when you say you worked with other companies in the program, because we hadn't really anticipated. We thought startups would be working with carriers in the community. I don't think we thought, the startups will work with the startups. So maybe talk a little bit about what you're doing with other startups in our program.
yeah, so I mean, just for everybody, all the listeners, first of all, intelligence is an ecosystem, which means, and think of it as a circular architecture where all best in class insurtechs connect into the middle. And then once that happens, we could deliver the proverbial USB cord to the carrier, and they get access to everybody who's on the network with a single set of integrations, right? So it really speeds that up. So as the insurtechs were all forming within Nassau Re and within some of the other places within the Hartford area, right? We all became familiar, and they're all looking for that road into the carriers, right? So as part of our platform, we give them expedited integration. We give them a single contract, easier to be onboarded, easier to be tested out. SOX compliance, all of those important things, security, all those things that are super important to carriers. So it's a relatively easy to get the insurtechs to want to be a part of the platform for all those reasons. And the ones that sat next to me in the Nassau Re Center, et cetera, kind of all took us up on it. So they're all connected to the platform.
Now, would you consider one of the things you offer, is that trust? If someone does business with intelligence and you have an entire ecosystem, are you offering trust, a layer of protection, or a layer of faith, if you will?
Yeah, well, thank you. And in multiple ways, right? So, the carriers, right, they have been around for a while. They're risk adverse, right? So naturally, they're going to, even if they see the greatest shiny new object, right, there's a fear that that company might not make it through and or might be absorbed in a way or bought by competitors. et cetera. So there's always that what's going to happen to the startup, right? When they're early in the program, and by connecting to us, you connect you connect using intelligence data definitions and interfaces. So what that means is, in a lot of cases, the actual provider of the service can be swapped out by like capabilities in the event that something went south. And secondly, we're fundamentally underwriting the insurtech. So we're looking at their security, we're looking at their compliance, et cetera, on behalf of that. And having done that at two Fortune 50s and been the gatekeeper in two giant companies, I know what it means to get into those companies. So we make sure that our members can withstand that.
So, I think this is a cool story. 2019 PowerPoint, 2022 announced acquisition. Somebody said, "Oh, I think Laura and I were talking to people at ITC, and one of the founders said, "Oh, yeah, we were a 9-year overnight success. You were a 3-year overnight success." Was this a straight line, Mark? You did your plan. You had this great Gantt chart, executed, and here's the outcome. Was it all exactly? Did it happen exactly the way you thought it would?
Yeah, I would say that it's exceeded our expectations, right? So as we began to grow and make money, that was great. We did that all funded through the owners, which was great. And we came across Fatbrain when we were looking to raise money, right? And as we were going through it, they really got us because of where they came from, right? They came from iPipeline. They came from Watson Labs, and IBM. So these were real veterans who understood that connectivity is the key to success. So it looked familiar to them, and they were sold immediately. And they're an AI company at their roots, and AI feeds off of data. So not only could we feed their AI algorithms data, but we could use the algorithms once they're created, in transactions, across the industry. So it's we just definitely found the right folks.
Talk to us a little bit about the value of team. How has the team grown as the business has grown, and what does it look like now?
Or let me put a little more edge on that, which is, startups I think are a little like bands. Sometimes, one singer is not the right singer. So how do you build it? And did you have to ask people to, did you have to change people from 2019 to 2022?
Sure. We had a couple changes as we've matured and were acquired. Not everybody, can handle being part of a new organization like that. But so we've had some changes, and with the Fatbrain acquisition, some of the back office stuff was really taken off the plates of the founders and such. So when you're a startup, you're you're the accountant, you're the attorney, you're the head of sales, you're the head of product development, right? And so we've been able to scale that out a bit. And our first strategy was to go to market through partnerships in a white labeled type of model. So we've been developing those, and those are starting to really produce results at this point in time. But we haven't previously had the ability to develop our own business development team, and I would say that that is our latest development. And so we are hiring up in the sales and account management space, and actively going direct at our audience. And we know we're using partners up market, But at the end of the day, there's 2,500 plus property casualty carriers, and many of them aren't household names, and we put them on equal playing field at some of the big guys without taking the risk. So our real target market is that down market tier 3 MGA program space, where they just don't have the architects and data science engineers to execute. We give them that on a low risk kind of pay as you go kind of model. So ultimately, we think that's where our growth is, and we're now able to address that. Likewise, I might, and we're delighted to be able to have attracted some industry giants, right? Ewan King from Sapiens and the Innovation Group, and Rob Zazulu from Stender. So we're really getting some great momentum there.
Great team. So, what was the hardest decision you had to make?
The hardest decision, yeah, it's it's the balance. It's maintaining that balance early on in a startup, right? Do I invest in product? Do I invest in sales, right? And you don't want to go too wide in product without having a decent pipeline in front of you. So I think it's maintaining that proper balance. I think is what I would say is the most difficult part of being a startup.
And tips for other founders out there who are listening to this and say, I want to get bought. What are the top 3 to 5 things you would say to somebody who just really wants to get bought right now?
Yeah, revenue, 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 revenue. That's going to be the key. Early on, and I think once you get up into near $1 million ARR, the conversations get easier. Before that, they're tough.
Yeah. So listen, we were at ITC. We saw Ewan. It was great. It was a reunion, although we're still, Mark, I go through the LinkedIn feed and I say, oh, that person was there and I missed them. I would say if anything, ITC for me validated your initial business premise that really succeeding in this market is a matter of partnering with all the right people. And do you think, I would argue that the community aspect, the partnership aspect, is even bigger today than it was maybe when you started. I mean, what's your sense coming out of ITC?
Oh, I would agree with that. And the insurtech community is a tight community, right? So the folks that are still there have been at it since 2017 or 16, and they get to know each other, and everybody knows uh, you know who's bringing what to the table, and it just becomes more and more mature as these things go on. And it seemed like I said, there's a rich community of those who have been around for 5 or 6 years, and I thought there was a good entrant of new names that we have some work to do to figure out what they're all about. So I thought it was a nice mix.
Yeah, it was interesting too. We had a colleague of ours join us for the first time, and her thought was, as we're walking through all the booth space, and you're kind of in this large cavernous area, that no one to her looked like a startup because everyone's presence was so large and grandiose.
Yeah,
She's like, I didn't know who was who and excuse me, and who was what, but it was fantastic.
yeah, yeah. It's good to see. It's good to see the my peers, their companies growing and being successful, and yeah, you could manage that by the size of the booth, right? These days, so
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for the advice to startups. I guess last question on startups is if you could write a letter to your former self and say 2000s or 2017 or 18, what are the three pieces of advice you'd give yourself?
wow, that's an interesting question. I I would, first of all, I was in the corporate space for 35 plus years, and I had great ear cover with lawyers, accountants, et cetera, all of those years, procurement folks, and I could focus on solutions and products. So, I probably over focused on solutions and products, and maybe, um, you know, um, and going forward, I would probably build the business development team much sooner in the process, and kind of get out in front of that. Instead of trying to be a perfectionist and waiting for everything to be nice and shiny. And then I probably would have went harder at fundraising earlier in the program, although it turned out great for us. But it was a struggle to kind of live off paycheck to paycheck, so to speak. So I would have looked to find that funding earlier in the program. But those would be the two.
Okay, so we'll switch gears. So, we have, a lot of people listen who are in corporate innovation departments. And I don't know, you can, and Laura can poke holes at me. What was the recipe to be a successful chief innovation officer a couple of years ago? Well, get a contract with sponsor one of these accelerators, get an innovation committee together, try to get a couple POCs each year. Okay, check the box. Probably did okay. If I'm an innovation officer, what should I be doing now, Mark?
Yeah, I think that is kind of a historical view of it, right? I think that after a couple, 2, 3, 4 years, it's kind of becomes a show me the money thing, right? And as I mentioned earlier, right, most every carrier is sitting on 50, 60 years worth of technology, right? And they've probably discovered the things that they like and they want to do, and they've organized their distribution strategy, their AI strategy, et cetera. Now it's an execution game, which is why ecosystems are important, because they expedite, execution. So that's where I think it's turning. It's naturally gone from kind of a discovery game and kind of a nice to have to now it's a necessity. Now we've spent a lot of money on this innovation. Let's start to get some return on it. And I think that's where we are. And I think that's why, companies like Intellagents is really becoming vogue and in style.
Now, if you had to look ahead, see, it's the future is calling now. My question was going to be, if you had to look ahead 3 years, where do you think that the industry is going to be? But that might be future Mark calling to give you the answer.
They did. Yeah, I think it's going to, the way I see it is, between 2015, 16, 17 until now, the carriers have been digitizing within their own brands, kind of within their own space, right? Their own agent portals, servicing portals, mobile experience, experimenting with AI and cloud, et cetera, right? And I think that is starting to mature for most or many. And I think that the next generation of digitization is between the ecosystem members, right? So distribution partners, et cetera. So the carriers need to be ready to fish where the fish are, so to speak, right? So waiting for somebody to knock on their agent portal, I think will continue to be there for a while, but ultimately they need to be able to have their products be able to travel wherever, right? Whether it's embedded, point of sale, other different marketplaces that might be around certain segments, et cetera. And then, and plus all of the, and that's evident now because, you're seeing a ton of the digital distribution platforms, start to rise very quickly, right? The Bolt Penguins, the Bolts, the Bindables, the Tarmikas, the Telmage, et cetera. So I think making sure that the carriers can connect to a wide variety of those and make sure that they're getting the business they want out of all the new emerging distributions is going to be the future, and that's where we're positioning ourselves.
How and why would I'm a corporate innovation officer. Why should I partner with you, Mark? How are you guys going to help me make money, get results?
Well, we have a couple really, again, I think this connecting to being able to take your products and connect wherever the market goes is going to be table stakes, right? Not just waiting for something to show up at the front door. So, and most carriers are, and mostly everybody is sitting on a variety of platforms, right? It's not like they're sitting there with fresh new APIs for every transaction, for every line of business, sitting at the edge of their organizations waiting to be used, right? That's not there. We could expedite that, significantly, right? We could connect to something that's circa 1982 and make it look like it's 2022 really quickly. So that's where we're seeing ourselves, as the rapidly enabling that digital front door, so the carriers could go take their products where their products need to be sold.
That's great. One of my favorite questions to ask our guests. Mark, why do you wake up every day and do the work that you do and remain excited about it?
Okay, and I'm gonna put this. You're back at Prudential, okay, with all those people, right? They're in a room. You've got a it's a Prudential reunion.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough, first of all, to be at two great companies that I had a long careers at, Prudential and Travelers. And I considered both of them, I had the opportunity to be in the entrepreneurial areas within those. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's being able to work with a team, make a decision at the 8:00 call in the morning, and be working on it by noon, right? And that's the key, right? The ability to pivot, move, follow, etc. Ultimately, that's the most exciting part of it. Nothing gets old.
So, okay, how do people get in touch with you, find you, follow you, find out more about your services?
Yeah. Intellagents.com. We are a Fatbrain company, and please visit us there. I am excited that as we, over the next several weeks, we'll be launching a new version of our product that makes it, all of our capabilities much easier to consume by the carriers. So we've kicked it up a notch there, and we'll be excited to be launching that. But go take a look at Intellagents.com. And it's Intellagents, pronounced intelligence.
Okay, good. Well, excellent. And Laura and I are going to be expecting a invitation for your new yacht now, right?
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'll be in the Hartford area soon, so I'll be up for a visit.
Okay, excellent. All right. Hey, listen, Mark, thanks, Laura, and thanks all our listeners. And listen, just great to have you on, Mark, and so glad to see you, succeed the way you have. So thanks, and join us again next week for another episode of the Reimagine podcast.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks
for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information about this company and other great startups at imagine.nfg.com.